The movie begins in Los Angeles, where President Ronald Reagan's motorcade arrives at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. As the president begins his speech inside the hotel, Secret Service agent Richard Chance is on high alert, scanning the area for any signs of danger. His attention is drawn to a figure moving suspiciously on the roof. Realizing the man is a terrorist armed with explosives, Richard quickly assesses the situation. He attempts to talk the terrorist down, trying to defuse the situation and prevent a catastrophe. Richard's voice is steady as he tries to calm the bomber, aiming to buy time and find a peaceful resolution. Meanwhile, Richard's partner, Jimmy Hart, makes a daring move by scaling the side of the building unnoticed, his movements quick and calculated. As Richard continues to negotiate with the terrorist, Jimmy reaches the roof and, in a swift and courageous action, pulls the suicide bomber away from the edge. The terrorist explodes in mid-air, away from the hotel, sending a shockwave through the night sky. This dramatic act of heroism saves countless lives but marks a tense and harrowing moment for the agents as they grapple with the gravity of their dangerous mission. Sometime later, Richard takes on a risky stunt by jumping from a San Pedro bridge, attached only to a safety line. The exhilarating jump showcases his fearless attitude and his readiness to push boundaries. After the adrenaline rush, he meets up with his colleagues at a local bar, where they unwind and share laughs over a round of beers. During the gathering, Richard presents Jimmy with a fishing rod as a retirement gift, symbolizing the peaceful, relaxing life awaiting him after years of dedicated service. Despite the festive mood, Richard isn't ready to let go of their partnership. He insists on joining Jimmy for a stakeout the following day, eager to continue their teamwork. However, Jimmy, with only 3 days left until his retirement, prefers to handle the stakeout alone, hoping for a quiet end to his career without any further complications. Meanwhile, in a remote desert warehouse, counterfeiter and artist Eric Rick Masters is deeply engrossed in his illegal craft, printing thousands of counterfeit $20 bills. The warehouse, isolated and tucked away from prying eyes, provides the perfect cover for Masters to carry out his elaborate operation undisturbed. The air is filled with the hum of machinery and the scent of fresh ink as Masters meticulously creates his fake currency. Jimmy, determined to follow up on the stakeout alone, arrives at the warehouse and starts to search for evidence. His keen investigation leads him to a dumpster behind the building, where he uncovers clear signs of Masters' counterfeiting activities, discarded printing materials and partial bills. Just as Jimmy begins to piece together the evidence, Masters, who has been watching from the shadows, ambushes him. Masters swiftly overpowers Jimmy and shoots him dead, ensuring that there are no witnesses left to expose his criminal enterprise. 2 days later, Richard, now deeply concerned about Jimmy's unexplained absence, assembles a team of agents and leads them to the remote desert warehouse where Masters had been running his counterfeiting operation. The team moves in swiftly, prepared for a thorough search. However, to their dismay, they find the warehouse devoid of any counterfeiting equipment. Instead of the bustling operation they had anticipated, they are met with an empty space, save for a solitary washing machine in the corner. The machine, likely used to clean up any remaining traces of the illegal activity, suggests that Masters had meticulously covered his tracks before their arrival. The lack of evidence leaves Richard frustrated and even more determined to uncover what happened to Jimmy and bring Masters to justice. As the agents continue their search of the warehouse, Richard steps outside, hoping to find any clues that might explain Jimmy's disappearance. His eyes scan the surrounding area with growing unease. His heart sinks when he notices a dark red pool of blood seeping from beneath a nearby dumpster. With a sense of dread creeping over him, Richard lifts the dumpster lid and is met with the horrifying sight of his partner, Jimmy, lying lifelessly in a pool of blood. The shocking discovery hits Richard like a punch to the gut, leaving him devastated and overwhelmed with grief. The sight of his fallen partner only fuels Richard's resolve, intensifying his determination to track down Jimmy's killer and bring them to justice. Grieving the loss of Jimmy, Richard retreats to his beachfront apartment, seeking solace in the quiet surroundings. The weight of his partner's death is palpable as he tries to come to terms with the tragedy. During this somber time, Richard is visited by John Vukovic, a colleague who was also involved in the recent warehouse raid. John finds Richard overwhelmed with grief and anger, and Richard, in a raw display of his anguish, vows to bring Masters to justice by any means necessary. He's determined to hold the counterfeiter accountable for the murder of his partner. Recognizing the intensity of Richard's resolve and his need for support, John offers to step in as Richard's new partner. Together, Richard and John begin to strategize their next moves. They channel their grief and frustration into a focused plan to track down Eric Masters, the elusive counterfeiter responsible for the crime. Their shared goal is clear: to find Masters, apprehend him, and bring closure to Jimmy's tragic death. A week later, Richard and John are on an airport stakeout, keeping a close watch for any signs of Masters or his operatives. Their patience pays off when they spot Carl Cody, one of Masters' key operatives, attempting to pay for his ticket with counterfeit money. Recognizing this as their chance to make a significant move, the two agents act swiftly and arrest Cody on the spot. Cody is taken into custody, and as he is led away, Richard and John feel a renewed sense of purpose. This arrest could be the breakthrough they need to unravel Masters' operation and get one step closer to avenging Jimmy's death. Later, Richard and John visit Cody in prison to question him further. During their visit, Masters arrives, appearing calm and composed. He reassures Cody that his lawyer, Bob Grimes, will work on reducing his sentence, which offers Cody some hope. Masters, however, is concerned about a crucial detail: the missing delivery of cash that Cody was supposed to hand over. Cody vehemently denies Waxman's claim that he had postponed the delivery right before being arrested at the airport. As tensions rise, Cody threatens Waxman with violence, vowing to kill him once he is free. Later, Masters meets with his lawyer, Bob Grimes, to discuss reducing Cody's sentence. Masters is visibly concerned that if Cody remains in prison, he might reveal crucial details about Masters' operation to the police. Masters emphasizes the need to ensure Cody's silence to protect their criminal network from being exposed. Meanwhile, Richard's girlfriend, Ruth Lanier, who also works as an informant, provides him with important information about Max Waxman. She reveals that Waxman has connections and knowledge that could be pivotal in their investigation. This new information adds a critical layer to Richard's pursuit of justice for Jimmy and the dismantling of Masters' operation. Backstage at a dimly lit club, Masters confides in his dancer girlfriend, Bianca Torres, about the situation with Max Waxman. He reveals that Waxman has double-crossed them, causing a major setback in their operation. Bianca, always supportive and resourceful, immediately offers to help Masters handle the situation. Her involvement adds a personal and dangerous edge to the unfolding drama, as Masters prepares to deal with the betrayal and secure their criminal enterprise. As Richard and John maintain surveillance on Max Waxman's office, they spot Bianca Torres making a discreet delivery. Inside the office, Bianca finds herself succumbing to Waxman's advances, but she leaves the door ajar, allowing Masters to enter. Masters, furious over the double-cross, forces Waxman to open his safe and hand over the cash. A brief struggle ensues, culminating in Masters shooting Waxman dead. Though Richard and John are asleep during the murder, they later enter Waxman's office with the police. As the scene unfolds, Richard discovers a codebook containing detailed records of dates, dollar amounts, and the initials R.M. Despite John's warning about tampering with police evidence, Richard decides to keep the journal, convinced it may hold crucial clues about Masters' operation. Later that evening, after an intense and emotional moment between Richard and Ruth, she hesitantly broaches the topic of payment for her role in leading him to Max Waxman. Richard explains that payment will only come after there is an arrest and conviction, which frustrates Ruth. She darkly foresees that her role as an informant might ultimately cost her life, reflecting her deep anxiety about her precarious situation. Before Richard leaves, Ruth informs him that a Chinese buyer will soon arrive from San Francisco to purchase $50,000 worth of stolen diamonds. Despite this new lead, Richard remains focused solely on the counterfeit money operation. He firmly warns Ruth that if she fails to provide crucial information about Masters and his operation, he will not hesitate to revoke her parole. While John follows a lead to Masters' studio, Masters arranges a meeting with local dealer Jeff Rice at a basketball court. In their conversation, Masters agrees to pay Rice $75,000 to have Cody eliminated in prison. Masters is confident that removing Cody will prevent any further exposure of his operation. However, when the hit on Cody fails, Richard brings Cody in for questioning. Despite the intense interrogation, Cody remains loyal to Masters and refuses to give up any information. Frustrated by the failed hit and the lack of results, Masters confronts Rice with a gun in his mouth. Masters demands that Rice return the $75,000 and, in a dramatic show of anger, sets the cash on fire right in front of him. After successfully convincing Judge Philo Cedillo to release Cody so he can assist with the bust, Richard takes Cody under his custody to lead him to Masters' print shop. As they drive to their destination, Cody makes a surprising request to visit his sick daughter in the hospital. Richard, seeing the opportunity to gain Cody's cooperation, agrees and removes Cody's handcuffs before they enter the hospital room. However, as Richard is momentarily distracted, Cody seizes the opportunity to attack him. In the ensuing struggle, Cody manages to overpower Richard and makes a swift escape, leaving Richard frustrated and determined to track him down. Meanwhile, John Vukovich meets with Bob Grimes at a dimly lit bar. Over drinks, Grimes vents his frustrations about the complications of having Masters as a client, expressing his concerns about the dangerous and unpredictable nature of working with him. After some negotiation, Grimes agrees to arrange a meeting with Masters, promising to set him up with the agents. This meeting could provide crucial information or lead to a major breakthrough in the investigation. Richard and John, undercover as moneylenders from a bank in the Cayman Islands, meet Masters at a local gym. They present themselves as interested in laundering a significant sum of money through counterfeit bills. Richard explains that they have a client eager to launder bonds to evade taxes, which piques Masters' interest. Masters, wary of the operation, demands $30,000 in cash as an upfront fee. Struggling to provide the decoy money needed for the operation from their department's resources, Richard suggests an alternative plan to John. He proposes that they secretly intercept the diamond deal Ruth had informed him about and seize the $50,000 involved. However, John is hesitant and ultimately refuses the idea, expressing concerns about the risks and complications involved in deviating from their original plan. Then, Richard blackmails Ruth into helping with the heist, threatening her with prison time if she refuses. She reluctantly agrees to assist him. The plan unfolds when Richard captures Thomas Ling at Union Station, and John arrives with. As they leave the station, they notice they are being followed by two suspicious men. Richard and John hold Ling at gunpoint and search his briefcase, finding a phone book and cash hidden in a concealed money belt. Suddenly, shots ring out from above, killing Ling instantly. In the chaos, Richard and John manage to lose their immediate pursuers through a dramatic car chase. However, they soon find themselves being pursued by a larger team of cars and armed accomplices. John takes a risky route, driving up an off-ramp on the freeway and swerving through oncoming traffic in a desperate attempt to evade their attackers. Later, at an office briefing, Richard and John receive shocking news. Thomas Ling was actually an undercover FBI agent. The revelation hits them hard, as it means they have been unknowingly involved in a much larger and more dangerous operation than they initially thought. The briefing reveals the extent of Ling's undercover work and the implications of his death, adding a new layer of urgency to their investigation into Masters and his criminal activities. While Richard delivers the cash to Masters, John meets with Grimes at a dimly lit cafe to discuss his legal options. Grimes, with a stern expression, informs John that his only viable defense is to plead guilty and turn in Richard. The gravity of the situation weighs heavily on John as he listens. Grimes agrees to represent John for a steep fee of $50,000, but John, showing unwavering loyalty to his partner, refuses to betray Richard. He insists on facing the consequences without compromising their mission. Meanwhile, Richard, with a determined look, collects Cody from his girlfriend's modest apartment, readying himself for the next crucial step in their operation. Later, Richard and John meet Masters at the gym to finalize the deal. As they move in to make the arrest, Masters' heavily armed bodyguard suddenly shoots Richard in the forehead. Richard, despite his severe injury, manages to return fire. John, horrified and desperate, leaves his injured partner behind and rushes back to Masters' studio. Upon arriving, John finds the warehouse in flames. Masters has set it ablaze in a final act of defiance. Amidst the thick smoke and roaring fire, Masters sits cross-legged, surrounded by the burning debris. He taunts John, questioning why he did not accept Grimes's offer. In a furious confrontation, Masters brutally beats John and covers him with shredded counterfeit bills. With the studio in chaos, Masters tries to ignite John with the same fire, but John, summoning his remaining strength, shoots Masters. Masters falls into the inferno, consumed by the flames of his own making. Sometime later, John visits Ruth to collect the remaining $20,000 from their heist. He accuses her of knowing that Ling was an undercover FBI agent and of having set them up. With a hard edge in his voice, John informs Ruth that she is now working for him. This is where the movie ends. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you can watch more movies like this. Thanks for watching.